Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well. So this is just an extra video. It's not part of any specific lesson, but I wanted to do an extra video where I went over the assignment details for the persuasive paragraph in a little bit more detail and introduce you guys to some of the extra materials that I'm posting to help you with the assignment. So uh, by this point, I think a lot of you guys have hopefully read the assignment page. You've maybe started working on it, and I know a few of you guys have actually already submitted the assignment, and that's great. It's great to get on it when it's fresh, when it's still in your head. One thing I do want to mention is that if you have already submitted it, and then you watch this video, you take a look at some of the slides, and then you realize, oh, I want to make some changes, I've set the assignment to be up to 3 submissions, and the last one is the one I will see. So the deadline isn't actually until Sunday. So, or sorry, a week from Sunday, so the 31st. So if you have already submitted it, that's great, but you can always change it and resubmit it, and I won't start marking until the deadline is passed. So, um, the assignment is making a short paragraph argument. So it's a persuasive paragraph. So the first thing I want to emphasize is that you are not writing a whole essay. If you want to imagine this in the context of an essay, the best way to think of it is as one body paragraph that could be in a larger essay. So maybe you have an essay where your overall thesis, your really big claim is gender-neutral parenting is, I'm simplifying, but let's say it was basically gender-neutral parenting is good. It's a good thing. Well, the paragraph that you're writing would just be really one part of that larger argument. You're only writing a focused, smaller argument that focuses on a specific aspect of this assignment, or sorry, of this topic. So what this means is don't treat it like an essay. You don't have to do a lead-in. You don't have to do an introduction. If you're using the direct approach, then you're starting right away with the topic sentence, and the topic sentence includes the claim that you're trying to prove. If you're using the indirect approach, as you'll remember from the week 3 lesson, that means that you still start right away with the topic sentence, but the topic sentence sets up the specific topic without giving away your specific claim. And remember, for this assignment, you have a choice between using the direct approach and the indirect approach. That's up to you. But either way, you want to start with your topic sentence right away. Now, the next thing I want to emphasize is the claim. If you remember in week 3, and in the discussion board, we talked about this as well. For one paragraph, we really do need to have a focused claim. We don't have space to prove a really big claim, like gender-neutral parenting is bad overall, or it's good overall. We need to be trying to, demonstrate, prove something specific. So having a good claim is really, really important for this assignment because out of 10, let's say that the claim is worth about 2 marks by itself, right? Because it's a big chunk, but it's not everything. But the problem is that if you don't have a good claim, then it's really hard for me to evaluate your data because the basis of whether the data is effective or not, whether the evidence is effective or not, is how well it's able to support and prove that claim. And so if you don't really have a claim, or if you have a weak claim, not only are you losing marks for the claims, but it's going to affect your mark for other parts of the essay as well. So, if you're feeling unfamiliar about this, I strongly suggest that you go back to the week 3 slides and take a look at what we specifically said about the claim. We want a claim that is focused. We want a claim that's debatable in the sense that it's a real claim. It's not kind of a wishy-washy, soft claim. And we want it to be an appropriate size for the argument. So it can't be too big, but it also can't be so small that it doesn't matter. Now, the structure of the essay, I already discussed. Um, I already discussed the approach, that it could be direct or indirect, but the overall structure should be using the Tolman model. And that means that you are going to have your topic sentence at the beginning. Then the next part is your data. That's where you're using hard logos, actual data, facts, statistics. You don't have to do outside research. That's not a requirement for this, but you can. If you do, please you don't have to spend a week doing research. You only need a little bit of data to help you back up that claim. After the data, we have a section called the warrant. The warrant can be very flexible, but the job of the warrant, what it needs to accomplish, is it needs to make the data good. It needs to make the data work. So you have your claim at the beginning, then you have the data where you're giving facts and statistics, or you're trying to show the numbers maybe that are going to directly support your claim. But by itself, the data is not going to do the job, because it's going to be a little bit dry, or maybe it needs some explanation to show how it relates to the topic, to the claim. Or maybe it's not trustworthy. And depending on what you need to do with it, that's what you need to do with the data. That's how you're going to decide what you need to do with the warrant. So if you have all these numbers, but there isn't an obvious or a direct connection to the claim, then you're going to want to use that warrant to really give that explanation and apply it and show why the data really does prove that claim. That's actually what we would call a logos-based warrant. Now, I know that's not something that I talked about before because I wanted to avoid confusion, but the warrant can also use logos. It's just that it's not using data. It would be a logical explanation. It would be using logos more than anything else, but we just want to keep in mind that it's still distinct. Now, put a pin in that because I want to come back and talk about that again in a little bit. In terms of what to do with the warrant, remember that you can also use pathos and or you can use ethos, and those are things that we covered in the lesson. So if you're going to use pathos, that's a great way to take the information that you have in the data section, which maybe it proves your point, but maybe it's a little dry, or maybe it's going to make the reader feel bored or uninterested or like it's impersonal. And so if you use pathos, that's an opportunity to take the data that you've already had and then apply it in an emotional way. Show why it matters in real human emotional terms. Or maybe you look at your logos and you say, okay, it's good, it proves my point, but there's some little piece of information that's missing. Or maybe the reader's not going to trust it entirely. And if you think the reader's maybe not going to trust it for some reason, well, then using an ethos warrant and showing that it's coming from a great source, a reliable source, someone we should be trusting, is another great way to use your warrant. So it really depends on what you're going to do. The final thing you need to do in that paragraph is a concluding sentence, and usually all you need to do there is really restate the claim, or with the indirect approach, state the claim for the first time. I'm going to stop here because I'm almost at 10 minutes, but I will do a part 2 to finish talking about the assignment.